Hi, everyone, and welcome to Conscious Corner with Courtney. This is exciting because it's my first solo episode. Typically, I have on a guest or multiple guests, but for this evening, it's just me. And I wanted to have this episode to talk about something that I see coming up for a lot of the clients that I teach mindfulness to, something that often comes up in my own life. And I also want to share with you something that I have on deck for the new year. Whether you work in law as a litigator, as I used to, or maybe you're a collaborative professional, or you work in another high stress profession like medicine, tech, maybe you're a teacher, or you work in finance, it goes without saying that there are going to be moments when your work can be challenging. If you work as a litigator, you probably know that things can often turn contentious or be adversarial. If you're in another high stress profession, things can be challenging when emotions run high, or you're dealing with difficult issues or matters, or perhaps people. Sometimes we have to work with difficult colleagues or clients, maybe even our bosses. And throughout it all, you're expected to stay calm, to be really strategic. If you work in the collaborative sector, you have to remain neutral and be effective, no matter what's happening around you. Over time, though, if we're not attuned to how that kind of environment is affecting us, or how the inherently stressful nature of the work that we handle day to day is affecting us, it can really knock us off balance. So the question isn't only how do we take better care of ourselves, but also how do we ground ourselves in those moments when everything around us is emotionally charged or becomes fired up? How do we stay the eye of the storm in those moments? Or maybe on the flip side, everything seems relatively calm around you, but you notice something is stirring you up, is agitating you in some way. You're becoming reactive, and it can be from just a mere thought. So this whole episode is about that, how to be the eye of the storm when we feel like things become chaotic, either externally or internally. And this is also the reason why I created the program that I'll be sharing with you in a few moments. So just a little background about myself. I spent 2 decades working as a litigator, and while I loved the intellectual challenge of that work, and I really enjoyed holding the hands of my clients, like helping them to navigate through a really daunting process, litigation wore on me over time. Really, like in the first 10 years of my 20-year career as a litigator, I didn't have the tools for making that work sustainable. Like people in other professions, I struggled with constantly being on, endless deadlines, high stakes decisions, emotionally charged cases, and trying to be present not only at work, but also at home. And over time, I noticed that my nervous system was in overdrive. I wasn't as present as I wanted to be in my life, for my children, for my husband, for my clients, for the people around me, and I wasn't as present for myself. I was still functioning, I was still a high-performing attorney. I did a good job at my job, but internally, I didn't feel steady. I often found myself feeling unnecessarily anxious or nervous or stressed. So I eventually, at the suggestion of a therapist who I had been treating with to find ways to better manage stress and anxiety, I enrolled in the Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction Program, also known as MBSR. Mindfulness didn't get rid of the stressors in my life. In fact, when I enrolled in the MBSR program, in some aspects, my life felt fuller, because here I was handling a full caseload. I had a toddler and a newborn, and I had to juggle in from a time aspect this program that met once a week for 2.5 hours for 8 consecutive weeks. So in many ways, there was a bit more to balance, but the MBSR experience was transformational. I can honestly say that the tools that I learned in that mindfulness program allowed me to do some of my finest work in the second half of my career. It allowed me to find ways to calm my nervous system, to center myself. It helped me to recognize how I was relating to the stressors in my life. I became more aware of my internal state. And in those moments when I was noticing some agitation in mind or body, I was able to step out of reactivity and choose how to most skillfully and consciously respond. That ability to notice how I was experiencing the moments of my life is what allowed me to take better care of myself. And it allowed me to be a better advocate for my clients. I really improved my ability to communicate more effectively. And quite frankly, not only did it make me a better lawyer, but it helped me to be a more grounded human being. So I created a 6-week program because I recognize that so many lawyers and other high achieving professionals deeply need these tools, but they don't necessarily have the time or the capacity for a traditional 8-week MBSR program. With that in mind, I created the 6-week mindfulness program. I adapted it specifically for people working in demanding, emotionally charged environments. I created the program years before the pandemic, but I had the opportunity to actually pilot the program at my former firm, and the response was overwhelming. People showed up not only to learn more about, what is this whole mindfulness bit about, and they really wanted to learn mindfulness practices to steady themselves, to invite some calm during a really chaotic time. But what was really so moving was the safe community that we co-created in our virtual shared space. And that safe container allowed people to, know that they weren't alone. They felt as if they, could openly share what they were being challenged by, and they could link up with that sense of togetherness, knowing that they didn't have to carry everything alone. The program was so impactful that I was invited back to offer 4 additional cohorts. And what participants shared with me wasn't just that they were able to reduce their stress levels and anxiety, but it enhanced their clarity, their steadiness, their resilience. They found more joy, both in their work and in their lives. Fast forward to our current time, post-pandemic, I honestly believe that many of us are juggling more than we've ever had to juggle. The pace of life is faster. I think on many levels, the expectations of us are higher, and emotional intensity hasn't eased. For whether you're a lawyer or another professional working in a high stakes environment, mindfulness isn't about stepping away from our work. It's about learning how to stay grounded while doing it. How can we support ourselves to be with what is, even when what is here, what it is we're experiencing, what it is we're facing or having to deal with is really challenging? We can learn how to be the eye of the storm. So my 6-week program, it's designed to be really practical. It's research-backed, it's time-sensitive, and it's deeply supportive. It includes weekly live sessions, so we'll meet once a week by Zoom for 1 hour for 6 consecutive weeks. The practices that we'll be doing together in class and that you'll be given recordings of to practice at home are short and they're doable. There are tools that I'll be teaching to help you regulate your nervous system. In addition, we'll be exploring mindful communication under pressure. So how do we, even in those moments where it feels like everything is utter chaos, how can we center ourselves? How can we really show up for ourselves and for others, practice that deep sense of mindful listening and mindful speaking? As an additional support, I'll be offering a private Slack community, and again, that offers more accountability, more support throughout the program. So whatever profession you are working in, or if you're a leader, or even if you're not currently working, but you want to feel more centered, steadier, clearer, and more resilient in this, in an emotionally charged environment, or just being in the world as it is, I'd really love to support you. Enrollment is now open for the 6-week mindfulness program, and you can learn more and register through the link in the show notes. So whether or not you feel that this program is right for you at this point in your life, my hope is that this conversation at least invites you to reflect on how you are towards yourself, knowing that we can really be gentle with ourselves, we can be kind, and that we can't pour from an empty cup, that in order to really show up for others in our lives, whether it's our loved ones or our clients or our colleagues, that we need to show up for ourselves, that we need to first take good care of ourselves. So if you have any questions about mindfulness or how I can support you in taking as good of care as you can of yourself, please reach out. I'd be really happy to talk with you more about mindfulness, and I'm wishing all of you a holiday season that is full of joy and many, many moments of ease and kindness.